Hi everyone, my name is Vedran and today I'll be talking about protocol and value-oriented programming and about some debugging tips and tricks. So let's start with the first one. So basically this is a continuation of the last year's talk on protocol-oriented talk from Apple, and it basically tells us that we should use structs instead of classes. Why? Because structs are more error-prone. Because when you pass a structure, you pass it by value, and if you pass class instance, you pass it by a pointer. So if you change a class instance somewhere in your code, you will basically change it everywhere. Another thing is that creating structs is more cheap than creating class instances. Second thing that Apple suggests us is that we should use protocols more often because we can test our code easily. When you conform to some protocol, you basically just have to create a class, conform to it, and make a fake object which you can test. Another thing is that you should use protocol composition instead of inheritance because inheritance complicates your code, and with protocol extensions you can basically conform to certain protocols which you need in your class. Everything that this talk is about is using structs more in your code because, well, basically for view logic code, Apple's example shows us that we can implement view logic inside the structures and pass it to the view controller so we can test it more easily. Because you don't have to create a view, add subview to it. You can just make a fake object and test it. And when dealing with states, we should not use 3 or 4 booleans. We need to wrap them inside a value type, for example, an enum or a structure, and deal with just one value, not more. Okay, let's move to debugging tips and tricks. Great thing about XCODE 8 is that there is a new option. You can use standalone terminal. You don't have to use integrated debugger. You can use the OS X terminal for your debugging needs. And also a great thing is that XCODE and LLDB are now distinct processes, which means if your debugger crashes, XCODE won't, and vice versa. If you ever written an Objective-C project and debugged it, you probably stumbled upon this issue. XCODE can't find some class instance. You must import AppKit, UIKIT, or some other framework. And XCODE 8 fixes this and imports it automatically for you. Another good thing is that now you can use global variables, functions, and closures. You can define them directly in your debugger and use them afterwards. So basically, first example is a little bit hard to see, but you can declare a variable, and it will be available for you not just in that line, but in the rest of your debugging session. Same thing applies for functions and for closures in the last example. And also, you can reuse types. So you can create a class or some other value inside your debugger and instantiate it and use it afterwards. Last thing, fix-its. So this is a cool thing. For example, you have myInt, which is an optional of int, and you try to add number 2 to it. So this shouldn't pass because myInt is an optional, but debugger will automatically unwrap it for you, fix it applied, and the function will pass. Another example in Objective-C is the simplest one is if you forgot a semicolon at the end of your function, XCODE will add it for you and let you know that it fixed your code in some way. And that is basically it. Thank you.